Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Body count burning out, how body count burnout is ruining women. I have an article from our favorite resident, quote, dating expert, Yana Hawking, who I've talked about many times on this channel because she's a journalist, quote, journalist, who writes lots of stories. She tells you, hey, here's what's going on in dating, and here's all my thoughts in dating, and she's done this through her 30s, and now I think she's now entering her 40s or is a young 40-something, and she's finding out, hey, you know what? This dating life, it's kind of sucking. I think I'm going to quiet quit. And the reason why I call it body count burnout is because she's very forward about going out with dates, and she used to fall in love, and then it was madly in love, and then it was love, and then it was infatuated, and then it was just he's hot, and now it's kind of like, why do I even bother anymore? And she ends up ghosting the guys. So the guys get a piece, and then she ghosts them, and they're like, hey, I'm winning. And in the meantime, the burnout is finally caught up to her. Now, she'll probably come around and come out with a story about why I think it's great to do X, Y, Z, because she's met someone new, and she gets the tingles all over again. But it's like watching a slow motion train wreck over the years, and she's writing her own documentation of how bad it's going. Before I jump into the main story, make sure to join me over on betterbachelor.locals.com. Christmas Eve, I will be eating a 2 million Scoville Heat one-chip challenge from Packy for supporters, so become a supporter today. And we're only looking for about 200 supporters, but all donations go to the men's retreat, so become a supporter today. And if I get enough supporters, I will make it available to everybody, but don't rely on everybody else because that's how things don't happen. And then I'm also doing one-off stories over there for supporters only, like Tom Brady's ex-wife is already ruining his career. It's been, I don't know, they just separated October 28th or something like that, and he's already losing sleep, and it's screwing up his life. All right, on to the main story. So this is from news.com.au, and she's quietly quitting. Yana Hawking is quietly quitting. And you know what's funny? She writes these articles, but then she writes it in third person about herself in the beginning. She says, I'm quiet quitting men, and I'm not even sorry about it. Let me tell you something. Those men are not sorry either. Goodbye. Yana Hawking has found a brutal new way to end relationships, and it's completely shameless, says Yana Hawking about herself in third person. That sounds mentally stable. This is just from a day ago. She said, I've noticed something about the way I date that I'm not too proud of. She said that in many articles. Let me just say that right now. You see, I've realized I've been quiet quitting on blokes, and to be fair, I think some of them have been doing it to me as well. Yes, that usually happens right about the time that they empty their nuts when they're with you. Once that happens, they're like, done, goodbye, I'm out. And now she's starting to be like, well, if they're going to do it to me, I'm going to do it to them first. And the guys, what she doesn't understand, the guys are like, thanks, man. That makes my day a lot easier when you ghost me. She said, by now we've all heard of quiet quitting. It's the newly coined term for doing the bare minimum at work. It involves pulling right back, saying no to working overtime, refusing extra tasks, and not going for promotions. Well, I haven't done that in my job. Girlfriend's got ADHD and far too much energy to burn, but I've noticed I'm doing it in my dating life. I'll go on a couple of dates with a guy, enjoy the company, but then I get distracted and start to quiet quit out of the relationship. The distractions can come in many forms. I call it pretty bird syndrome. You know, when you're walking along the street, deep in thought, look up, spot a colorful rosella, and think, oh, pretty bird, before continuing to plod along with a completely different thought in your head. What is she talking about? She's talking about dating chads, betting them, having fun for a couple dates, and she's like, bored, moving on. Those used to be, if you go back in her reading way back when, those used to be the guys she fell in love with, or she really was smitten with, and she hung on in there for a couple of months. But of course, with them being very high quality men with lots of options, they would dump her. And she got over her one-itis, and then she became an alpha widow. And now what she's finding is she's so tired of the game. Why? That body count, the dating, everything else adds up to emotional burnout. And then a great guy could come along, really find her interesting, want to be with her, and she's just like, nah, I don't feel anything for him. It's real. And when she gets married someday, because she's running out of men that want to date her, when she gets married or finally decides to settle on one, she won't love him. He'll be there out of a convenience. She says, well, that's basically what I'm like in dating, and I reckon a lot of people are. You go out with a bloke, enjoy the initial serotonin rush when he texts you to say he has a great night and is looking forward to doing it again. But then you go on a few more dates, still undecided, and that rush you once enjoyed from his texts starts to wane. So you start quiet quitting on him, sometimes subconsciously. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And this is same thing that we've talked about a zillion times. The tingles go away. Now, what she doesn't say in here is whether she beds them or not, but many, many, many of her other stories talk about her going out and just having a hookup, just having fun. So if she's going on a few dates, I doubt she's breaking her past history of hooking up with guys. More than likely, she's getting that serotonin rush from not only the texts, but the little bit of the bedroom fun. She says, it's different to ghosting. You're not just disappearing in a cloud of rude smoke. You're still texting back, but without the same enthusiasm, like responding without a question to avoid the text turning into a conversation. She says, yep, you're basically putting the bare minimum in. You see, you don't want to be rude and you're not certain you want to end it, so you just keep it lukewarm. And what's that doing to the guys? It's stringing them along. And usually to the point where they're like, all right, whatever, I got other better things to do. This might seem outrageous, but I think it's nicer than dumping said date. Yeah, string them along for a couple of weeks or a month rather than just saying, hey, you know what, this isn't working out. Yeah, somehow that's nicer to waste a guy's time. She says, especially when you're still in the early stages of dating, that you don't really require it's not you, it's me chat. Yeah, because, again, she's emotionally wiped out. You both kind of read the room and then you go your merry way, perhaps choosing to pick it back up at a later date. In other words, to hook up again later on. Say when you run into them again and they're looking hot. You notice that a lot of this circulates, when you spot a pretty bird, when he's looking hot, it's all about his looks. So of course she's going to hook up with him. She doesn't really care about them, but she can't care about them. It's fizzled. She says, shameless, Yana, shameless. Now on the flip side, quiet quitting could also happen when the relationship seems just a tad dramatic. You're consistently fighting or playing games. Gee, I wonder which one that is. One day you discover the whole thing is far too exhausting, so rather than send them a scathing text and enter the boxing ring for another round of shouting, you just back away quietly. You're polite, courteous, and responsive just without the same enthusiasm you once had. This is apparently a handy way to get out of a relationship with a narcissist. Okay, but which one's the narcissist? That's the million-dollar question. Maybe both of them. Basically, you become super boring so they no longer want your attention. Now let me take it one step further. Perhaps it's worth quiet quitting dating in general, at least for a little while. Earlier this year, I went on a bit of a dating bonanza. I was desperately trying to get over an ex and decided dating a few peeps would be the key to my success. Well, that's an expression that's used oftentimes. The best way to get over a man is get under a man, or the best way to get over a woman is to get on a woman. But when women are doing that, they're burning themselves out. And she even says it. I went on a dating bonanza. What's that mean? With Yana, if you read back all her other stories, it usually means hot guy, going out with him, hooking up, seeing how things go for a couple of weeks, dating. He dumps her, she dumps him, and they move on. This has an emotional toll on people, and it's come home for Yana. She said, except it was a disaster. No bloke matched up to my ex. Oh, I have to hit this one.
Ding, ding, ding. What do we have for her, Johnny?
Of course, and this is the problem with the high body counts. This is the problem when you date hundreds or thousands of men. It's because, again, I like Bob's height. I like John's money. I like Tim's schlong. I like so-and-so's car. I like this one's personality. This one makes me laugh. And you're not happy until you can find it all in one man, but he doesn't exist. Or he does, but he's a 0.0001% man. And she says it right here. None of these men matched up to my ex, who I still had on a pedestal. That's called an alpha widow. There is a reason why we have a term for that. No man will ever match up to this other guy. And so for her, every man from here on out is settling. But you know something? If you don't have a high body count, if you haven't dated a million men, if you found the right person and just settled down early on in life, you don't have that much to run through. And then you're not like, well, this other one had this and I deserve it all. You say, hey, you know what? This person matches up with me pretty well. I think we're going to do okay. And you move through life together. You grow together. You fix things together. You support each other. You learn the bedroom really well with each other. And pretty soon, they're the best person you could probably have ever because you've learned each other. But we don't do that. We want to shop for what's perfect today, and you're not going to find it. She says, and I got serious burnout from going on dates and feeling absolutely diddly squat for any of them. So I quiet quit the dating scene. I didn't make a grand announcement that I was out of the dating game, except that's what she's doing right here. I just shut my apps down for a while, stopped looking in dates when my heart wasn't into it, and basically did the bare minimum when it came to finding my significant other. But you notice she says she's still looking. She said, I stopped looking for dates when my heart wasn't into it. Okay, but that means she's still occasionally looking for dates. She shut her apps down for a while, but not forever, because that validation is too tasty. She said, I do the bare minimum when it comes to finding my significant other, which is what a lot of women do today. And what's the bare minimum? He's got to match all the 6s or all the 7s or all the 8s or whatever the hell they're going for today, and then they'll select him. But anybody less than that, I'm not even going to bother. So their bare minimum is actually looking for the best of the best of the best. I was exactly what I needed, and I spent that alone time, 15 minutes, actually healing and mourning the end of a dud relationship. Right, I'm sure you did. How long did that healing take or last for? A week? A month? You know, when you get out of a relationship, and it was a big, important relationship and somebody you really cared about, guys, you can back me up on this. It can sometimes take a year or 2 or 3. Sometimes you can be emotionally over the relationship, but everything you learned, i.e. the lying, the cheating, the divorce, the how much she changed in the time that you knew her, those lessons can persist forever. And a lot of us never come back for it. So you're going to tell me what, in a month or 2, and we'll watch. Yana will have another article out in 15 hot minutes about how something else and she hooked up and something else went wrong. These women don't take any time to heal. She hasn't probably been more than a month or 2 in 20 years where she said, I'm not going to date or hook up with a guy and I'm just going to fix myself. I guarantee it. And why? Because she writes about this stuff. She's a columnist for it. She says, that's exactly what I needed. I spent some time healing and mourning the end of a dud relationship. But the dud relationship is the one she can't get over. You noticed that, right? It might have been dud relationship, but boy, she was into him because she can't get over it. So sure, quiet quitting might sound a bit selfish and a bit lazy, but what's wrong with stepping back and taking some perspective for a while? Absolutely nothing. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is she's not really taking any time to get over a dud relationship. It's putting a pause while her feelings are hurt, and then she gets that little tingle again from the next hot guy that wants to take her out. You know, next thing you know, it's heels towards heaven. She's doing the old starfish position while he has his fun, and maybe she gets the tingles. Maybe she's burnt out like she is now and doesn't anymore, and she just says, well, I quit. This is so common with so many women. And then what happens when they age, they gain weight, something happens, and no men are into them. They start writing the articles about how men are pigs because the 48-year-old guy that she wants is dating a 23-year-old. Henry Cavill, some woman wrote a scathing article against him. I made a post. I'm over at Bachelor Joker on Twitter, and I'm posting over there because I'm looking for stories and stuff. And when I see something, I retweet it. And I posted over there, and a woman, I don't even remember who it was. Oh, I think it was Frosk, actually. Frosk did a shout out against Henry Cavill because at like 27 or 30 or whatever he was dating like a pretty smoking hot 19-year-old. And I quote tweeted it, and I'm like, this is what happens when women let the best years go by. They start getting angry at the young women that are now getting the men that they want and that they're invisible to men. And why are they invisible to men? Because they're emotionally burnt out. They're not having fun on dates anymore. It becomes a slog. It becomes a job. They're not as attractive. Gravity and the rest of it sinks over or takes over. Gravity sinks her body, and gravity takes over, and she's not thrilled about it. Look, Father Time is evil to all of us. I now wake up from a nap sometimes, and I'm sore for sleeping wrong. That's a thing. That didn't happen when you're 19. But it affects all of us differently. And these women that come out and they do this, and then they can't find a man because the men they want are dating down younger, they become angry. They become angry crones that are just pissed off at the young women doing exactly what they did. Because I guarantee you, when she was 20 years old or 22 years old, she was going out with a guy that was 33 or 35 that had a Porsche and wanted to fold her like origami every night. And she was thrilled to be with that guy. But when she's that age and that guy wants the younger woman, now it's unfair. It happens every time. And then if they bother to gain weight and end up single, they settle, which they're miserable and they hate the person they settle with, or they don't settle and all of a sudden all men are bad and they become a crazy lunatic. All right, guys, that is it for this one. Again, join me on betterbachelor.locals.com. I'm going to do a couple of videos over there that are unique one-offs. We got the one chip challenge coming up in, let's see, just about a month and change. I'm not looking forward to that. 2 million. I like spicy food, but 2 million Scoville is another deal. So if you want to watch that, make sure to become a supporter today.